Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Lowland Greenhouse here at Carlton Carnivores. We're continuing the species spotlight today with another Indochinese Nepenthes species. This one is actually in some ways a little similar to the last species that I showed in terms of color, but quite different in many other ways. What we have here is Nepenthes chang. This is a species from central Thailand. It is actually named for Chang Island, from where one of the original accessions was collected. This species is found in a couple of disparate locations, one on Chang Island and the nearby coast in central Thailand, and then further north, actually near kind of, I think it's the Thailand-Cambodia border, is one of the, I think the actual original type collection was where it was made up there. So a couple different locations. It is a lowlander growing from roughly sea level to about 300 meters, so 900,000 feet in elevation or so, experiencing nice warm temperatures and the standard monsoonal cycle seasons that are found in that region. This species is considered to be a fairly close relative of Nepenthes campotiana and Nepenthes holdenii, which is a species I still have to get. I was not successful with the cutting that I received several years ago. But this species grows to about 3 meters in length when it gets fully mature, so roughly 10 feet long, and produces what I think are actually some really attractive leaves. These plants they're fairly elongate, kind of slender, obovate to lanceolate leaves that drop down to a very thin point, slightly decurrent on the stem. The stem also should be noted is this lovely rich red coloration, but then the leaves, the young leaves that are produced are this lovely reddish flush in many plants, and then as they age, they turn more of a general dark green color. The midrib of the leaf actually remains a nice reddish color or orangish in many plants, and the tendril kind of contains that as well. The whole plant is covered by this very fine indumentum covering of hairs. The hairs are either white or kind of a light golden color, and that's one of the traits that actually separates this species from Nepenthes campotiana, which is a generally glabrous or hairless species. And that fuzz is persistent throughout the life of the leaf of the plant. So unlike some species where that might be present when the leaves first develop, this species retains it all the time, so it never falls off. The pitchers, like most Indochinese species, they're fairly nondescript in shape, at least. This species, a lot of plants that I have seen photos of, and mine as well, the pitchers look almost like they're inverse funnel shaped, so they're very narrow around the mouth and then bulbous ovate at the bottom. This varies a little bit. You can have some plants that kind of retain that shape, of course, or you can have plants that instead are kind of ovate in the base, they narrow at a slight hip, and then they become cylindrical above that for the upper half of the pitcher or so. If you look at it from the profile, they are slightly wider than they are when you look at it from the front. So that is kind of distinctive for this species, unlike some of its relatives, which are kind of ovate, kind of the same width all the way around the pitcher. They have a very simple, kind of teardrop-shaped mouth, very round, fairly narrow peristome, and then beautifully fringed wings right down the front of the pitcher. Coloration for this species, like Nepenthes rosea, which is the last video that I produced, is generally fairly light. The pitchers may be green to kind of this orangey or pinkish tone, and if we look at, where is it? There it is. The newly developing pitcher that I have here, it's this very pinkish color, kind of like coming off the reds of the tendril. It retains that, and then as the pitcher develops fully, that kind of fades a little bit to this orange tone. So the main pitcher background can be kind of that kind of greenish to orangey pink, and then some plants, not all of them, will produce kind of a mottling of light red spots on the exterior of the pitcher. The peristome can be flat, kind of cream or green in color, And most of the photos that I've seen of this species kind of follow that tendency, but you do have some plants where the peristome will end up being kind of red flushed or even slightly striped. And then the interior may be completely cream colored, or it may be speckled with red. These pitchers grow to about 12 centimeters, so it's about 4 or 5 inches tall, so they are not huge traps generally. They might get a little bit bigger than that, but not by much. Upper pitchers, on the other hand, which my plant is not yet mature enough to show, are a whole different ball game. They can grow to up to 25 centimeters tall, so more than twice the size of the lower pitchers, and they're a completely different shape. None of the ovate base, anything that the lower pitchers have. Instead, they become a very slender, cylindrical trap, kind of funnel-shaped in the very bottom, but then very thin and cylindrical above that. Actually quite similar to a lot of other Indochinese species like Smilesii, Bocarensis, and others. The coloration of the traps, though, is usually almost completely green throughout. They might have some red speckles up near the very top, near the mouth, but otherwise very, very green. They lose the wings, the mouth of the pitcher remains roughly the same, and same with the kind of ovate-shaped lid. But they are much larger but much paler than the lower pitchers are. Now, when this plant matures, of course, like other Indochinese species, the vines tend to grow really fast. They may grow a couple of meters within a single growing season because they're trying to make use of that monsoon season when the rains have come through, all the moisture's around, the insects are active, capture all the food, they come up and they bloom. This species, another one of the traits that separates it from its relatives like Campotiana, is it has 2 flowered peduncles. So you have the main stalk, and then off of that stalk you have the little tiny peduncles that go out to the flowers, and those split in this species, so each peduncle has 2 blooms. Some other species only have 1, like Campotiana does. So these guys will flower just as the monsoon season generally is starting to end. They'll set seeds, and then just like the other pyrophytes, these guys have these really thickened, gnarled-looking root structures where they store water and energy for the next season. That allows them to survive droughts. It also allows them to survive the fires that often go through the area during this time of year. And so that stuff burns away on the surface, and then when the rains come, the rootstock sprouts again with all new vines coming off of it. Now, this species is more or less about as easy to grow as the other Indochinese species are. Fairly simple and straightforward. Again, it is a true lowlander. It does not like cold conditions. You may get it to tolerate kind of intermediate conditions during, like, if you have cooler winters, where temperatures are dropping down to maybe 60 degrees Fahrenheit at night, but preferably it wants to stay above 75 degrees Fahrenheit all the time. So 75 at night, and then during the day, going up to 80 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And in the wild, these guys grow in either very open, sandy savanna habitats, or actually, these guys do like a bit more peat in their soil. They do have they kind of have peaty soils in the areas where they grow, or they grow on cliff faces. So they will tolerate the peat soils, so they can tolerate somewhat heavier, wetter soils than some of their relatives do, but they also grow just as fine on the more open type substrate that some of the other Indochinese species like because of their sand or cliffside preferences. So cliffside plants, you can grow it in a very loose soil, or you can also grow it if you only have that in a much more peaty soil, just to moderate the moisture. I use, like most of my Nepenthes, roughly a 1:1:1 mix of sphagnum, long fiber sphagnum, perlite, and then I'm using cocoa chips that have been nice and well rinsed. That allows for moisture retention, waiting to water until the surface soil just starts to dry out, and then all the moisture is retained within the pot, and then keep it warm. These guys like a lot of light, like most of their relatives, so approaching full sun, they'll do well. If the plant is happy, of course, you will see that nice reddish color be retained for a little while in the newer leaves before it starts turning green. And then, yeah, keep it warm. And then during the hotter summer seasons, you may see the plant slow down a bit. as it thinks that it might be going into the dry season. If you see it halt growth, you can allow the soil to dry back just a little bit. Don't let it ever get completely dry, but you can let it dry to just barely damp to the touch. And that may actually help trigger this species to bloom if you're lucky. And then fairly simple and straightforward to do with cuttings. These guys, they take pretty well to just cutting the stems, sticking that into water or a moist sphagnum container, and then giving it a few months. They'll root fairly quickly. Just keep it warm and humid while you're doing that. Again, these guys, they come from Thailand, monsoonal areas, so during the wet season, their humidity might be up to 80, 90%. During the dry season, it might drop down to 40, 50%, give or take. So they can tolerate some variation, but try and keep it relatively humid overall for the best growth. Now, that is all that I have for this species right now. If there's anything that I have missed, if you have questions, feel free to leave those in the comments below the video here. And of course, if you'd like to learn anything about some of the other species that I've covered, again, I've done several of the Indochinese species already, and those videos are already up on this channel. You can go find those. I will have more that are coming up as well. I've got a few more Indochinese species to get through as I repot them. But make sure to like the videos, leave comments below, share them so others can learn. If you want to learn more, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything coming up. And you can also find more information at my website, carltoncarnivores.com. There's a blog and database there where I'm always posting things about the plants and animals that I'm working with. And also photos and tidbits and such on social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, at Carlton Carnivores. If you'd like to help support the production of educational videos and the blogs and such, consider joining as a Patreon member. Members there get exclusive benefits back, like monthly seed contests, early access to these videos, and more. Or you can buy plants at the website shop at carltoncarnivores.com. There's also links there. We have merchandise on one section of the shop. There's also a Teespring link for a few other items that I have not been able to move over onto my main shop. Or you can also donate at Ko-fi or contact me if you'd like other ways to do that. Links for a lot of these will be in the video description below. But until next time, I'm Hawken Carlton, and this is Carlton Carnivores.